the review meeting of the Board of Education for March 13th, 2025, and I'd like to welcome our live audience again. There is time to get down here with just a few seats remaining, but we know
about the free corned beef.
we do know that because I get some really nice calls from people who watch us live stream, and I know there are a couple of nice young ladies who talked to me this morning and said they'd be watching. So special shout out to them. Without naming them, they know who we are, and I appreciate your viewership. We also know that a lot of people replay this. So welcome everybody. Board members, we have a relatively short meeting tonight, and we have no need for an executive session. We are in a stretch now where we'll have 4 board meetings in 5 weeks. So we're kind of like the team that's playing back-to-back nights. So we wanted to welcome you and get started. Let me just lay out the agenda, and then we'll introduce our first presenter. We are going to have a presentation from Alan Booker, who has been with us, with our kids mainly, and we wanted to share what Mr. Booker does. Mr. Bilson, you raised a good point a couple of weeks ago when you said, sometimes we see these short-term contracts, these long-term contracts, et cetera. So I want to try and bring people that correlate with those contracts more frequently so that you get a look at what they're doing in their product. Then we're going to go into the budget, and we will have the budget plus a presentation on STAR and Enhanced STAR, a nuance of the STAR and Enhanced STAR that I'd like the viewing public and of course the board to understand with our budget. And then finally we'll do an agenda review, and there's a couple of contracts on that agenda review that I want to spend a little time talking about. I'll summarize a couple of highlights that are upcoming, and then we'll call it a night. So Mr. Valero just gave me the look like, that sounds like about 8:30 the way I talk. That's the look I kind of felt. I could just, it's a little scary that I can read your mind. So let's get started. I want to introduce our friend Alan Booker. Alan has been in the district working with us as an independent contractor for 6 years. It feels like a lot longer. He's really gotten involved with our college planning and support of our Career and Counseling Center at Niagara Falls High School, from which he has a specialty, and he brings great value added to the kids at Niagara Falls High School in the district. He's been very integral in a program called the Liberty Partnership with SUNY Niagara, and has been a steward of that program for our students. He is a very good community servant, a very honorable man, and I just want to give him a plug without embarrassing him. But I want to thank you, Mr. Booker. Mr. Booker has probably been one of our best fundraisers for Say Yes Niagara Falls, and he has, through his contacts, and again, I'm not going to embarrass him with a dollar amount, but through Mr. Booker's contacts and people that he knows and foundations that he knows, he's brought in for Say Yes Niagara Falls, I would say a substantial amount of money, and in due time we'll share all that. But that's a credit to Mr. Booker, and first of all, he believes strongly in Say Yes, and secondly, he really knows the foundations in our area and has been able to work with them to show what we're trying to do and the efficacy behind Say Yes. So Alan has been a big supporter in the early stages of Say Yes, and I want just to briefly and smartly take you through Booker College planning and how he complements not only our Career Center, but our P-TECH grant and early college grant, and probably a few other grants that he works on. So take it away, Mr. Booker, and thank you for your community service too.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for the kind words. Very, very nice, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anything that is all about the students, I'm always going to be a part of that. So again, I want to thank the board for bringing me on, because I always get excited about talking about my business and what I do and sharing that with the viewing audience. So good evening to the audience as well, the viewing audience.
Those
so
yours.
I know we have a short amount of time, so I'm just going to run you right through exactly what I do. So Booker College Planning started in October 1st, 2007. And I didn't know I was even going to open up or start a business at that time because I decided to leave the higher education industry. And I always had people who knew me, they would come up to me and say, I need you to help my son, I need you to help my daughter. So once you're in higher ed and the admissions arena, it just does not go away. So I said, I'm gonna start my own business. So October 1st, 2007, and this year will make almost 18 years that I've been in business, and it has been extraordinary. And my service area right now is Western New York, although I have had some people from North Carolina, and I did have one person from Ontario, Canada. So am I looking to expand that? Not quite right now, but Niagara and Erie County are really the foundation of my business. So I've been in business for 30 years. Seemed like it's been longer than that. And that's a combination of me owning my business and also of me working at 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, colleges in state, colleges out of state, traveling as an admissions person to places like Dallas, Austin, Houston, Chicago. So I bring all of that knowledge to my business and obviously to the students as well. And as you can see on your screens, there's some of the positions I held when I was at those particular institutions. So I spent a lot of time as an admissions counselor. And then when I was in Atlanta, I worked as an international director of international admission, former graduate admissions person, and a former EOP counselor. So,
Who
I did
is,
have to add a fun fact.
who is that?
So that I am a Niagara Falls City School District graduate from
What?
LaSalle Senior High School.
No,
I applaud it.
no. I think I've got Bass for sure. I know I have Pareto. I gotta have.
Power cats here. There's power cats.
Yes.
Were you there when Russ tried to burn the school down? I heard that last week. I knew that story. Okay, I'm sorry, Ellen.
but
I can't say anything about
I did have hair at
I
that
can't
time.
say anything about the picture because I have one just like yours. I know I do. Yes, I do.
I'm gonna make it seem younger. It makes awesome, but that looks like, is that a Longin Studios classic?
Yes,
classic-
it is.
That's it.
Yes.
Wow, I'm impressed. You picked that up right away.
You know what? They had a distinctive look.
All right,
We were all about that.
let's give the year and then transition to work here. What year?
So high school class of 1985.
Oh,
No reaction to that. Hey, just remember, I didn't say call the year out. Mark was like, give me the year. I would say 95.
I knew someone was going to ask the question. I'm like, okay, I'll say it. All right. So my education background, so I went to SUNY Niagara and received my associate's degree in communications, my 4-year degree in English, and then I went back to get my master's in student personnel from SUNY Buffalo State, which is now, they changed the actual title to higher education and administration. And I'm just going to keep it here for a minute because when I'm meeting with students, it's important for me to explain my progression of how I went through the stages of, started off at the 2-year, then I went to the 4-year, went to work, and then later on went back to get my master's. So I always think it's important for us to explain that to them, and they appreciate it. So, all right, so what does Booker College Planning provide to the students and to everyone that I work with? College application assistance. So there's something called the Common Application, which has a lot of different sections to it. So I help them navigate through that entire process. The financial aid and scholarship assistance, which is very, very big. How are we gonna pay for college? And trying to figure out all the different avenues to help that work out. I also review financial aid award letters and offer letters. And I'm gonna stop there for a minute because think about a 17 or 18-year-old kid getting a letter in the mail saying, this is what we're gonna offer you and this is what the bill is gonna be. And there might be a financial gap of whatever. How are you gonna pay for that? So now, before they sign, the ones I can catch, the ones that, that I look at it, review it, and then I give them some advice, and then it's up to the family to decide what's the best avenue for them to sign off and make college affordable, or they change the school or whatever. That's a decision that's on them, but I give them all the options. Assist students and families in navigating the scholarship database, and I will give a shout out to the School Counseling Center because they put that scholarship bulletin out and it's always updated. And I have been in a lot of districts outside of Niagara, and this scholarship page on the website is probably one of the best ones because it's very easy to navigate and you can download stuff and it's always, again, up to date. So I really enjoy that. I meet with parents and students in person, face-to-face, virtual. We also offer college essay development and review. Again, we don't write essays for anyone, but we work with them to get their thoughts together so that they are communicating their essay to the person who's gonna read it on the other side who does not know them. College readiness seminars, and that's just 3. I mean, I do a ton of them. So preparing for college, which really gets into the college planning timeline from start to finish. Navigating the common application, and then college affordability, funding your future. So, where are we right now? The college advisory services provided to Niagara Falls High School students between September 1st, 2024 to 3/7/2025. So I did see, and this number has grown since that day, 50 students, one-on-one, and basically I help them work through their college applications. And when I say 50, it's mostly students. Sometimes the parents will join in on that, okay? Common application, a lot of it is going with financial aid because there's a lot of need for people to get some help with that, and scholarship applications. This college destination, which is a partial list, I see a lot of the students that I'm working with go to Buff State. There's one that looking at Clark Atlanta University, SUNY Fredonia, Niagara University, SUNY Niagara, and University at Buffalo. And there are more, but those are the ones that I really see a lot of the students that I'm working with. They're signing on to those schools. Students are now getting their, yes?
Pardon my interruption.
Yes.
Are some of these Clark Atlanta applicants from the HBCUs who were last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The financial aid offer letters are going out, and it consists of loans, grants, scholarships. And we look at all of that to see what they want to take. Now I'm gonna go down to the merit-based scholarships awarded to some of our students. And again, this is a partial list. We had a student who received the full flight scholarship, which is technically $37,000 a year. But this particular student, they received a really good financial package, so they rearranged the numbers. So that person is still gonna get the $39.90 per year. We have one that received the Niagara University Trustee Scholarship of $25,000 a year. We have another one from Buff State, $16,000. NU Dean Scholarship, $20,000. Canisius College, $92,000 for the 4-year. And the SUNY Fredonia Presidential Award for Excellence, which is $24,000 a year. So again, that's a short list, more are on the way. And when it comes to the local scholarships on the websites, students are they're either waiting for decisions or they're still applying for decisions, or applying for scholarships. And I literally today had someone, I was out at the mall and someone saw me and they came up to me, they're like, I need help with this scholarship. So it's coming fast and furious, so. P-TECH program, so I work with freshmen through seniors, provide a lot of the college readiness seminars. So one of them is called extracurricular exploration, because I always tell the students, start participating in things in the classroom, at the high school, as well as stuff that's in the community. So you want to build up that extracurricular sheet, or we call it the brag sheet. Real talk, soft skills that matter. So communications, critical thinking, all sorts of things that students need to know to communicate and really be prepared to go out in the world. Hire me. I worked with some seniors to help them prepare a resume. So I had them fill out a resume worksheet, and then from there I met with them one-on-one, and I took all of that information and then I designed the resumes for them to submit to the partnering businesses that will hopefully give them internships. For the early college program, some of the same presentations or seminars, preparing for college, navigating the common application process, navigating the FAFSA. And by the way, when I say navigating the FAFSA, it's easier, but there's still some areas that people get stuck on. So if we both get stuck on it, we call them right there, and we talk on the phone, and they answer the question. I've never had one problem getting on the phone with FAFSA with a student or a parent to explain some complicated situations. So that has always worked out well. And then obviously one-on-one meetings with the students, I do that all the time. And then through Mrs. Wolf's class, she partnered with Buffalo State, and she's teaching a Mastering the Academic Environment. And she brought me in to kind of facilitate some of my college planning seminars. So this has been a very good course, and the kids get 3 credit hours for that they could use in college. So here are some trends that I'm seeing right now. Obviously, there's a lot of students that are staying close to home, and they want to commute because they're looking at the cost factor now, and it's just in their mind. And I try to be in the middle, but when it's getting expensive, we have to look at all the options. So a lot of students are staying close to home. A lot of students are actually making appointments with me, multiple appointments. What's the next step? What's the next step? I'm confused on something. I need to know the answer to that. So that's been very good. And parents are also reaching out to me, asking questions. So that has increased. Everybody knows that I'm on the 2nd floor in the library, so they find me there. So that's my main location. I've had tremendous support from the faculty, staff, and administrators, and the counseling staff at the school. I get referrals all the time, and it's been wonderful. People can reach me by text message, phone, virtual appointments, and I'm also available after school hours and on certain Saturdays. And that seems to be working out very well, especially through virtual options. Any question before I get to that?
I'm sorry, Rob. I just want to make a comment. And this is my children entered college before I knew Alan well. I paid for this service for my 3 kids because just for navigating that FAFSA form, just for navigating the FAFSA form, and you might say, well, this complements what the counselor's doing. But a school counselor with a very long caseload of students to see, not just their responsibility on course requests and everything else, but we want them to speak to students about their day-to-day needs, their social emotional needs, trying to drive kids to counselors for those reasons, and let Alan and others handle things like FAFSA, which is a bear and takes hours and hours, and it could never be done. If you multiply the caseload of a counselor and the time it takes for one FAFSA, that would take a week per person. So it's value added to our students. It was written into our PTEC and early college grant that we would provide this service. I think it's made a difference. We know, and we've had this conversation, we know that every student is not destined for college, and that's okay. And one of the challenges that we've always had in the district is, I appreciate what you said about the number of scholarships, but getting kids to really put pen to paper, so to speak, and fill them out is something that we've had to push hard on. And I can just, it's getting better. It's not where I want it yet, but it's getting better. Rob, I cut you off.
No, it's all right. I'm just putting my thoughts together. First, I can see why this is successful and you're successful, because there's something about you that is really engaging and extremely pleasant. So I'm sure you were great for the kids. And really great presentation. And pardon my ignorance on this, but how many of the students can use the service? And how do they go about, just gonna reiterate to me again, if I was a parent,
Yes.
and maybe if you were relying on the children to know about it and follow up, how is it, because I have a daughter who's going to 11th grade, right? So this is exciting. I want to make sure she gets a chance to do this, right?
Yes.
So as a parent that's watching or sitting here now, how do we go about having your child have this service that you provide?
So I would say a number of ways. So right now, I know the school counselors get the information out to the general public. And I'm not sure if it's in the paper, like the school newspaper. And it's really, people just find out about it. And I get them connected. They get connected to me, and then we just start this conversation. My web address is up there, so anyone can definitely reach out to me.
So you have bandwidth to handle, like if every senior wanted to use your service. I'm just kind of wondering what the process is.
Yeah.
Do we, and again, if it's something I should know, I apologize. but
No.
This is a learning.
You
experience.
shouldn't know.
This is
Yeah.
good.
So,
And-
You wouldn't know. I mean, you could, but I would be surprised if you
And I
did.
will say this, so I started 6 years ago with the district. It was a little slow, but it started to grow. I think my continued presence at the high school made a difference. So everyone knows now, right? That was not necessarily the case before. I had to build up on that, build the trust. People know who I am, get out there. I have been invited last October, and I'm sure I'll be invited again this year, to a big parent night with seniors and their kids by the school counselors and principal to just kind of talk about what I do and actually what I can offer. And I'll never forget, so I presented in front of the group. After that, we all had tables outside. I couldn't even get to my table because there were so many people already at the table.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Once they find out.
Yeah,
Okay,
so-
So is it fair to say that currently it's probably more word of mouth recommendations
Yeah.
based on the counselor that
Yeah.
like, just
Yeah.
needs
Yes,
assistance?
yes.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah,
Very fair
very
word.
much so.
But once the word's out, you can handle.
Then I have some
And
things
then
in
the other
place.
question I have is, added to your list, and by the way, let me preface this all by, I'm really interested in this because as a stressed out parent, with a 16-year-old,
Okay.
starting to plan to college, this is like an ease, making it easy. So recommendations on extracurricular activities that might help with acceptance to certain colleges, you provide advice and counsel on things
Yes,
like that?
because I get into, just like I'm talking to everyone here tonight, it's not like like me and, we're talking, like we're having this general conversation, and I'm actually pushing them to think about ways that they can build up their extracurricular activities. A lot of students have already started that. As I get into the conversation with them, they then reveal certain things they've already been doing. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do that. Like the P-Tech program, I said, this right here is great. That's already gonna go on your extracurricular activity sheet or brag sheet. So yeah, I give them advice on things that are traditional, some things that are thinking out of the box. I mean, there's a wide variety of things that colleges will look at. But most importantly, I want them to build up that brag sheet because it's a good scholarship opportunity. So that's the biggest part of it, besides the application, but for scholarship dollars.
And then one last kind of comment. This is such an interesting thing, and thank you so much for having me present to us. It's been a pleasure. This is great. What could we do for student athletes or students that are in other activities in school where maybe their families or themselves are not in positions to understand or know ways that they can potentially get scholarships for those types of athletics?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm going to cut in for a second, right? Because you hit something on me that we haven't done that we need to do. This Monday, every sports. I'm going to take sports, okay? And we've got one of our theater and music teachers here too. Dr. Wingert is here too. So I think we have some more natural opportunities to make presentations to, say, the music group. But I'm just thinking, I think an evolution of this with sports would be that we, at the parent nights or the coaches' nights, we need to include Alan Booker to come. And the other part of that sports and information night for college, for scholarships is we've got to have our NCAA rep there, because there are such stringent rules about what the NCAA will accept for eligibility and not eligibility. And I'm not sure that we've done enough articulation with parents about what those are and how this course counts and this course doesn't, in addition to what Alan does. I think what I'm hearing from you is that we've got to look for those natural opportunities when parents come in, like coaches' night for softball, music night when they're talking about their trip to Boston or wherever they're going. We have to start using some more of those natural times. Would you agree that's a good way to do it? Yeah.
And again,
I don't want to cut you off, but he's making me think a little bit about what we're not doing.
Really this topic's really off of, it's not specific to your program, but just like, I'm really interested in this.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to have this update. And now, and then you know how my brain works, I'm thinking like, okay, well, how can you either add to this service through you, or even add on
Right.
to this service
Right.
for, you know, maybe a student, we use student athletes, it's just the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe a student athlete isn't, you know, doesn't have the best opportunity possible. I don't want to say academically, but maybe if they were able to amplify what they've done through the athletics opportunities, and how do they do that? How do they navigate that? Do they know how to do that? You know, I'm not saying that has to be included in your program, but that's something that we might want to do.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. So
Earl
just
was-
same thing for theater and stuff. But either way, thank
Yeah.
you for answering the question. This is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Earl?
Yeah, as like a former athlete, student athlete, in particular in my case, D3, you find out that D3 athletes, they do not, NCAA does not allow us to have scholarships that are based on athletics. There might be scholarships from alumni or whatever for athletes, but as an athlete in D3, a university, a college or university cannot give me, I mean, there's ways that they work around it, but that's not something I knew at the time. And, you know, I think sometimes people don't know that, and I'm pretty sure you're aware of that already. But just kind of piggybacking off of that, you know, you can't even, a student athlete can't even talk about receiving an athletic-based scholarship until they're D2 minimum or D1. And, you know, I think it's kind of unfortunate, but that is the archaic way of NCAA.
Yeah, which first of all, I'm just finishing a book about that, and it's got to change because it's changing at Division I. It's got to trickle down to 2 and 3 with all the name, image, and likeness money that's being spent. It's coming, and it should change.
Yes.
I didn't see SUNY or Niagara County Community College for all other worlds on that list. Do you work a lot with them?
Yes. All was on there. It was SUNY Niagara.
Okay, 'cause you give away a lot of money to kids on scholarships.
Yeah.
He's a proud, even listed it as, he's a proud alumni. It's on,
Was listening to
it's on at least
Nick
2 or
and
3
this
sides, Jim.
Let's see. Right there.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mean you. Working with our people from, here, I'll throw Jimmy a lifeline. It was on the same page that I hijacked the meeting.
Do you talk about your work with SUNY Niagara?
What's that?
Could you talk about your work with SUNY Niagara?
So my work, I'm going to give you a little bit of the history of before and how I came back to SUNY Niagara. So my very first admissions job was at SUNY Niagara. So I worked as an admissions person for about 6 years and just pretty much was in Western New York, so Erie County, Niagara County. I went into all the school districts there and did all my recruiting. Then I left there, went to some other colleges, circled back. Then I did some other stuff. And now I'm back at SUNY Niagara part-time working for the Liberty Partnerships Program.
So through Liberty, and if you go to the P-TECH slide,
Yes.
all 100, I know there's a P-TECH slide in there somewhere. So there's 148 students right now that are working. Those are all SUNY Niagara kids because they're in P-TECH. Now, they don't have to go there, but all the work we're doing with those 148 are connected to SUNY Niagara. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
So that's 150 kids that we're pipelining to SUNY Niagara. And that's where his work gets involved with SUNY Niagara. I think that's where you're going. So it's not on the slide, and I think I appreciate the presentation. As often as we can, these short-term contracts, these long-term contracts, what I bring for you. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just a minute about Say Yes and your attraction to that. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you have been a champion.
Yeah, so, when I think about Say Yes, I would always hear about it in Buffalo, the Say Yes Buffalo, and I've heard it for a long, long time. So the minute that I heard it was coming to Niagara Falls, it hit me, because I am working with students in real time, and I can see the connection of how Say Yes would work well for this district. Tuition and all sorts of things that would be just a big benefit, because these are the things that I'm talking to students about every single day. So much so that I became a fan of it, that through some foundation work, again, I was able to funnel some dollars towards the Say Yes Niagara Falls initiative. I didn't have to do it, but it was easy to do, if that makes sense, because I believe in the district. The district has done great with our students. I see the work that I'm working with them in real time, and it just made sense. That's the easy answer I can give.
Thanks. Yeah. Which one of the Jackson 5 were you? Tito or Jermaine? I don't.
I just want to make a comment. I've known Mr. Booker for, I don't know, a bunch of years now.
Long time.
Because he worked at City Hall, and then so I got to know him through our mutual being at City Hall. But he's also a champion for not just colleges. This young man has also pointed some of our kids in the direction of the trades. Mm-hmm. And in fact, more than one occasion, he has, hey, you got time to talk to this young person? I said, I always got time to talk about trades to a young person. So he has funneled a few folks in that direction. And so it's, because it doesn't cost them huge money other than their dues if they get into a union-based shop, but he has pushed that direction.
Yeah.
So he is it's not much he can't do, and I appreciate the time and the exposure he's given through our trades stuff.
Well, I think you subscribe to the philosophy that we believe in. Not every student is destined for college.
Right.
That is a fallacy. That's something that we've worked very hard to change. It's something I personally believe in. Of course, I believe in college. Of course, I encourage that. But there's got to be something for everybody, and college might not be it. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I just want to reiterate, I paid for this service when my kids went through school. Now this is what you do through your support, and the team does through grants. A lot of what we do with Mr. Booker is paid for by an F code. We write him into grants, or have written him into grants, and that's how the money gets generated to support it supports the kids. So your approval of a resolution or a short-term contract for Booker College is this, and I just wanted you to meet him, and I wanted to say thank you for what you're doing for our kids, and you're a family member of the team at Niagara Falls High School.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you have any other questions or need to contact me, you have my contact information, so feel free to reach out anytime.
Thanks, Alan.
You'll be seeing my office.
Thanks, Alan.
Upstairs and see Mr. Booker.
Information, I'll tell you exactly where he is.
Yeah, okay. They'll find you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to transition to our budget. We are just passing the midway point of our school district budget. Becky, we this week indicate changes in green. We're on a very good trajectory. I just wanted to make one comment. Let's start, of course, on the revenue side. That's the adjustments. If you could highlight, Ray, the foundation aid column, that number reflects a 2% increase in foundation aid across the state. This week, the House, the Assembly, and the Senate released their budget proposals, and in the New York State Senate, they're asking for a 3% increase in foundation aid, and in the Assembly, they're asking for a 2.9% increase in foundation aid. So as we say, that is the governor's budget. The Assembly and Senate gets involved in that number, and if it were to, I would love it if it went up to 2.9 or 3%, but even if it moved up a few tenths of a percent, that 7 million will be affected in an upward trend. Otherwise, on the revenue side, I think we're pretty stagnant, Becky, right?
We are. There were no recommended changes at this time.
And then when you slide to the appropriation side, we now have some clearer information. Remember, staff to grants are, I spoke about carryover money we have in the federal grants that we're trying to bring in and use now. So we'll do that and bring some people in to relieve the general fund. The insurance premium, this is our property casualty line. And last Friday, and I know the president attended this, we had a, God bless you, we had a good meeting with our provider that is nicer. And we also received email confirmation this week that we don't have the exact rate, but they recommended that it'll be between 8 and 10%.
Correct, and we're using 10% so we don't get caught off guard with the lower budget numbers. So,
Summer programming, we put back in here all of our Camp Wolverine, our exceptional children money, we put it all back in here. So that was added back in, that's why that increased. Transportation, which I'm going to talk to you about when we review the resolutions. We don't know what the increase is. How the transportation increase is determined is the May Northeast CPI.
correct. And the most recent CPI is listed at 4.1%.
Right.
So we chose to add the known amount at this time. So that is an increase
Right.
from the last time, because we estimated originally 3.5.
Right. It could go down. It could go up slightly. I think 4.1 is a conservative number to put in there. So we did change that number, which increased our expenditure side. And then the president was in attendance for a meeting with New York 44, which is the insurance carrier of our actives and some retirees. And I'm pleased to tell you that we received the rate this week, and the rate is 7%. That's the family rate. And there are other machinations. There's the single rate, et cetera, but we chose to put in the highest rate, 7%. Some of the other rates are lower, but that won't work. If that happens, that will be a line where we certainly have enough money, because we do have many family situations. I don't know, Maria, what the breakdown is percentage-wise, but we thought to be very conservative, we'll put the highest rate in there. Most people have family, and those that don't, we'll back them out, and that will be money that we'll have. But we chose to, instead of going through every single one and being that specific, we just put the highest rate in there at 7%. And again, that's now a known number. What it does is it keeps us within the About a the number I'm using, budget to budget, our budget went up 3.9%, 3.94%. Now, if you actually looked at the numbers, it's almost 6%, but remember, $2.5 million of that is the capital project money we get back.
Correct.
Had we not had a capital project, we wouldn't get that money back. So that's why I like it just broken up in two ways. Scrolling down a little bit more, that leaves, I'm going to go to two numbers. Remember, the reason we're doing this is so that on May 20th, we have a number that the voters vote on when they go to the poll. And if it was today, the number I'd recommend to you is 202, 385, 135. But we still have time, right? And the gap at this time is we'll just say 3.45, which, God bless you, which is a gap, but it's not anything that we can handle it, of course. When you go to did I reflect everything right, Becky, on that side?
You absolutely did, because the original gap is 4.3, and we've already determined we're going to use the 915,000 of reserve for debt.
Two meetings ago, we spoke that we had to use that money. Again, my solution or my recommendation coming in early April will not be to reduce staff or programs. It will be to look at some of those reserves. We haven't gotten that far yet. We're still evaluating a couple of things. Obviously, you know why judgment and claims are in there. We haven't determined about the cell phones yet. Why? Again, to reiterate to parents who might be watching, we're waiting for the final language in the budget on cell phones. The Assembly rejected any phone ban or legislated phone ban, and the Senate recommended adjustments to the way the governor has presented it. So instead of trying to guess what that's going to look like, we're going to wait till the budget's passed, read the language, and then decide how we're going to approach that. If the method is to go with pouches, there's going to be a cost. I know the governor has set $13.5 million aside for that. Whether we're going to be able to use it if we go that way or not is to be determined. But I want to remember everything that we may need to spend money on. We've estimated the 2 salt trucks. Near the end of the month, I'll have a recommendation for you on that. And on the 27th, I've asked Rick to present his thoughts or recommendations through me to you about the elementary summer program. So at the next meeting, you'll have a recommendation for us on the summer program. Scrolling up a little bit, Ray, that is to the minute the reflections of our carryover funds. With the exception of a couple, that is the verified amount from Drescher and Malecki in your audit. And just once again, to reiterate to the listening public, this year's budget vote requires only a simple majority because we're in the positive tax cap. And if you were to raise the tax levy 1%, that would generate $258,290 into that gap, if that's the way we chose to do it. I could foreshadow that it's not going to be my recommendation, but we want you to know, A, it's a positive tax cap, and B, that's what each percentage could raise, and we could raise it 5.5% if we wanted to. So we wanted to show you that. The good news is we're getting closer on the expenditure side by getting the property casualty number, by getting the health insurance number. Things are starting to tighten up for us. The good news, not good news, but the news is that we're at about a $3.4 million gap at this point. Last year, it was double that at this point, by the way. It was 6.877 million. So it's good. I hold out hope on the revenue side for that foundation aid number to go up a little bit, even if it goes up 0.3 or 0.4%, not all the way to 3. We'll still pick up a few more dollars there with the new formula. So, again, those were the proposals from the House and Senate to increase it. Becky, what did I forget? And then we can take questions.
You did not leave out anything. You
All right.
do an exemplary job with this.
we've been getting along very, very well the last couple of years, Becky and I.
Mark, I
yes.
just got a question. On GAP, we haven't put anything in for leftover money from this year's budget or
No.
anything else, right?
No, not at all.
So it's gonna probably
Yeah.
be pretty good when we get
Yeah,
down to it.
so I will say this with as much certainty as I can give you on March 13th, right? Because you know you won't get that number until October 27th when Drescher and Malecki is here. But I would say we're going to be pretty close to that number. Maybe a little. It's not going to be like it was this year because our budgets every year are getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and we're drilling into things even more specific. But we don't spend every dollar. Yeah. We don't, and you know, and things change. So, you know, so what do I mean? I'm not hiding money. What do I mean? I'll just pick on one group. We have associates who are hourly employees. We budget them for their full salary as if they've never missed an hour. Some of them miss hours and don't get paid, leaving money behind. So that's just one example of it. Yeah. That's true too. Another area that we notice that we do is we budget travel. We've limited our travel immensely in the district. Or we pick up a grant that can carry some things. So yeah, if I had to be a prediction, it would be around the 2.5 or 3 number. So again, I'm very liberal in my thinking. Becky and Julie are the governor of me to be much more conservative, right?
True.
So, any other questions on the budget? If not, I want to have Becky explain something to you because I'm not sure if the call came to Mr. Petrosi first. I think this call came to Mr. Petrosi last year from a citizen. And I didn't know the answer. Of course, Becky and Julie did, but they had to do some digging. It has to do with STAR and Enhanced STAR. STAR and Enhanced STAR. And the assumption was that if I qualify for STAR or Enhanced STAR, I would pay no school tax. Yeah, well, that's, yeah, that was what the person thought. That was what the person thought. I want to really show you this.
It changed. She didn't pay any tax one year.
Right,
The next year she paid tax.
right,
And nothing changed on her part.
right. Well, they must have known you knew me.
When I did my 2024,
Yeah.
they took it away. I
Hmm.
had to pay for whatever, I think I was getting like $300 off. They put it back on, so for 2025, I gotta pay it.
Let's show you why.
This is why.
Let's show you why. So if you had that question, the person that called the president had that question, I think we owe the public the explanation of why. Okay, so I'll let you take this one, Becky, and you might have to make that bigger array.
I'm going to take you through a very quick
Yeah, it's small.
explanation. It's just
Can you make it bigger, Ray, or Becky? Or no?
visual. There you go.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay. And Juliet put this together, and what she did here is she listed our tax levy. Our tax roll at the top is the $25,828,989. So that stayed stagnant. That has been the same over the years. What does change is the amount of the maximum exemption, like the amount of the enhanced or basic STAR exemption. And what that amount does is reduces your assessed valuation of your home. So in this instance, we used a $50,000 assessed value. So you can see if you have a basic STAR in the current year, your assessed value is being reduced by $16,550, so you're being taxed on $33,450 at the district's tax rate. Okay, when you had the enhanced STAR, the $50,000 home this year, your assessment is being reduced by $45,360. You're being taxed this year on $4,600 $640, so you're paying a tax of $90. If you look back over the last, what it's up there, 7 years, 8 years, in 17, 18, that $50,000 assessed value home, the enhanced star reduction of the assessment exceeded the assessed value, so there was no tax being paid on that home for the school tax. And that amount of the enhanced star, the enhanced and the basic star, is determined by the New York State Department of Taxation each year. The district hasn't changed the levy. The tax rate changes slightly each year, even though it's the same levy based on the total assessed value of properties in our city. But the star, like, reduction to your taxes changes each year also, and that's from the New York State Department of Taxation. And there's also other things that come into play, like there's limits to your income. For you to qualify for the enhanced star, there's... What's the qualifications, maximum for income? I think in the upcoming year for the enhanced star is around $100,000, but I would have to verify that. And for the basic star, it's probably about 200, but again, I can look that up for you and get that information to you. Okay, and on the next slide, we demonstrate the same thing, but with a home that's assessed at $100,000. So in the current year, again, the basic star is only going to reduce your assessed value by that $16,550. You're going to be taxed on $83,450 worth of assessed value. And on the enhanced star, you're going to be taxed on the difference between the $45,000 and the $100,000. So you're being taxed on $54,000, paying a tax of $1,065. If you look over back in 2017-18, you would have been paying $859 on that $100,000 assessed value. So it has increased. The tax has increased over the years as the enhanced star and the basic star exemption amount has decreased. And again, the other variations, like I said, our income, our tax rate fluctuates slightly. So I know one instance, someone called that they didn't have a tax before and then they got a tax bill for something like $8. So, I mean, it all depends on your assessed valuation. All those things come into play.
Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought Julie did a great job on this worksheet to demonstrate the change over the years. And the assessor's office actually could give any individual their exact computation of how their star exemption was calculated.
Use your microphone.
I was at City Hall today paying my county tax, and a woman was coming out that know me, and she asked me did I get the star. I says, well, I did, but for some reason, it seems like they took it away because it's back on my tax. So she says she was there asking about the star, and they couldn't give her an explanation or if she qualified for it or not. So evidently City Hall is not too, educated on this star.
Well, it depends though. If you went to the billing and collections office, and in the billing and collections office, all they're doing is issuing the bills and taking the payments. They are not involved in the calculation of someone's exemption. So that question would really have to go to the assessor's office. Okay? And I'm sure they would be able to help you. Mm-hmm.
Gotta go see Bird, right?
Well, I don't know who I had.
Collection should also refer to the assessors.
So the tax levy is the same. What's changing is the, or the amount, yes, that's right. I just want board members to know that in case you or somebody else's question on this. And also, it's now publicly done, we chose to just do a $50,000 and a $100,000 home. You could extrapolate it if you had a $75,000 or $150,000 home and see what the results would be. But I appreciate a resident calling the board president. I appreciate the work that you did, Julie did, to back into this and to try and hopefully explain to the residents why what was never a payment or a tax, I should say, is now it could be a tax. It's based on something, and again, I'm not trying to abdicate or blame anyone, but it's not anything the district has control over. We don't have any say in that, right?
No, we don't. The only thing we control is our tax levy.
Right.
And even our rate is dictated by the levy in combination with the total assessed values in the city.
So when we build that budget that we just showed you, it starts with 25,828, whatever that is, 989.
989,
We keep
yep.
that the same, and then we add all the other revenues to it and put all the expenses against it.
Correct.
Does it make sense, Mr. President? I mean, I know you were the one that faced the citizen.
Yes, no, makes a lot of sense.
Any other questions? Good.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Ms. Dunn, to help. And of course, I would encourage any listener, anyone who's in the public that wants further explanation, I know Becky or Julie would be happy to explain it. They can't change it. They can't waive it. They can't make it better or worse, but they can explain it. And as a public servant, I know both Becky and Julie would be happy to give that overarching explanation.
Correct. Thank
And
you.
unless they changed it, Becky, I think when you go up to the second floor, you have to bring in your tax return, and it's based on that also.
Oh, if you're applying, yes, if you're applying for the enhanced star.
Well, they send you a letter too. It tells you you're not going to get it, and you can bring it in for review.
Yeah, there's an application process, but I was thinking too, like, they can also tell you, like, what your specific exemption was based on.
Just to conclude the budget, and I'll just do this in summary, because this week the House and the Senate, or the Assembly and the Senate, put their bills to the governor. And these are, I just picked out 3 or 4 recommendations from each group to tell you what the one House bill looks like. In the Assembly, they are recommending that the foundation aid number goes from 2% to 2.9%. They, of course, supported free meals for all families, which I think is not in jeopardy for us. And the Assembly rejected the governor's proposal to have a regulation or law on smart school phones, on bans. They rejected that. In the Senate, in their bill, they have asked that the foundation aid be increased from 2% to 3% with a particular look at New York City. I don't know if I remember saying this, that when all that foundation aid first came out, the area that got hurt the most was New York City. So I'm not sure how they're going to. That's a very strong lobby. They also supported full meals. They have a strong language in there to adjust the timing of electric buses, and they want to adjust the governor's recommendation on smart devices. The Senate also took it further and said that they would like to extend the retirees' ability to work 2 more years. What would that be called, Maria? Where you can work after you? The retiree cap, to waive it for 2 more years. And then they also recommended they permanently raise the level from $35,000 that you can make to $65,000. That's in their bill. And the other thing that I just thought was interesting, in the Senate budget, they again call for a school representative to sit on any local IDA. So that's just a summary of what's in those big bills. A lot of paper, but that's what they're saying on both sides. I have no sense, folks, if April 1st is the law. I have no sense on where it will be. On March 27th, we are going to finish our discussion on summer school. We think we'll have our numbers pretty well set. And then we are going to start pulling in, I'm going to recommend some reserve usage then for you to look at to get that gap from 3.4 million to 0. You'll have a chance to digest it on the 3rd, and then I'm going to ask for a vote on April 10th. So that's the foreshadowing of what's to come in the budget. Thank you so much. We have one last item. Yeah.
Mr. Superintendent, are we coming any closer of having a student on our board?
It's so interesting that you asked that question. I was at Niagara Falls High School this afternoon, and I walked into Mrs. Villardo's office, and in her office, she had a horseshoe of kids from the student council. And what they have developed is, she went to the student council, and I believe right now she has about 15 applicants to be a board representative. So it was just fortuitous that I was there because I thought it was really interesting. And what the kids did is that they created a rubric of evaluation, a 1, 2, 3, or 4, where every one of those 15 that wants to be a board member would present. And they would be rated 1, 2, 3, or 4 for a composite score. So the only thing I took the time to do was to explain to them what the ad hoc role of a student board member would be in my words. I promised them that they would sit right next to Mrs. Dunn and I. That was the first thing. I promised them that they don't vote on anything. They don't attend executive session, obviously. But what will happen is they will be asked to ask questions of speakers. They will be asked to dialogue and converse. And I said I would anticipate a board member or myself turning to you and say, what do you think of this? And what do you think of this topic? And also to give a monthly report that they write to talk about their perspective of a student and what's going on. So I am certain that and they want to let the student council pick and do the whole job. But she put the application out and got 15 responses. And we will have a recommendation here for you, either the June 12th meeting. We'll have a recommendation, and then we'll have to see if I'm sure we'll want to do the whole ceremony at the July 1st meeting to swear them in and get them used to things so that they have to be on board by statute July 1st. I thought it was good that 15 kids were interested from the high school. The other thing that she did, and she's very thoughtful, is she brought 10th graders into it to watch, because this will probably, next year will probably be a senior next year. For the first year will be a senior, and then the following year she's thinking about opening it up to juniors and seniors, because it might be nice to have a student who's interested for 2 years or 1 year and say that I want to get off of it. So she brought 10th graders in to watch the process, so they'll be able to help select. But it's funny, you mentioned that she was doing that today at 2:45. I was excited to hear 15 kids want to do this. Sure.
That's a lot.
That is
wonderful.
a lot. And it's going to be, and we're going to let the student council select or recommend to you who the student is. I want to thank all of the students that even showed interest in it. I think that's pretty good, and I think it's going to be a great experience. Talk about Mr. Booker. What a resume builder to say that you served as the ad hoc member of a school board. I think that's going to carry some weight, and I'm not insinuating that that's why they're doing it. I just think it's a good thing for a student on a resume too. So they will be in place on July 1st, and will serve at least 1 year. We haven't determined, and just to again foreshadow, it'll probably be a senior student next year. That's the way it's looking. Okay, I'm excited about that. Ray, if you'd pull up the agenda. We'll go through this with you and certainly ask Ms. Massaro to get warmed up in the bullpen. We have a meeting on the 27th of July. I'm pushing the calendar. We have a meeting on the 27th of March. It's in 2 weeks. Nothing particularly, here. Budget transfer, there are no bids this meeting. I'll have Maria get ready with the certificate and classified report. While she's getting ready, let me go through the short-term contracts. We are, and I know Mr. Bass spent his whole day at Niagara Falls High School today in our Big Picture program, but this organization, Cold Gnarly Generation, does music production. So we're going to have kids in Big Picture write, produce, and edit their own music. And this is a company that will come in and do it. And this is something we wanted to bring to Big Picture. This organization works in Buffalo. They will work with our kids for 6 weeks in Big Picture to produce some type of music that they do. Well, maybe you don't, but beginning last Saturday, Dr. Falzone and our ENL teachers have been undertaking a Saturday class for parents, ENL parents and their children. We have 22 parents and 16 students who go to Saturday at Kelfis. These are ENL students, and it's taught by Dr. Falzone and Niagara University and paid for by an F code. Number 3 is for a evaluation of a bilingual student for speech. This is an ENL student who we can't evaluate without getting some support for speech, so we need to use an outside service for that. The Week of the Young Child is coming up right before Easter, Mrs. Buckman. And we always support the Week of the Young Child, and the children at G.J. Mann are going to Play University, which is at the Summit, what I know is the Summit Park Mall. I know Mr. Pareto spent a lot of time there at York Steakhouse, but now it's like a play center. Or was it Spencer?
A little bit of everything.
All right. We have 3 alumni. We have 3, we're going to honor 3 alumni, outstanding alumni at your May 8th board meeting. Cindy DeVore, who is a graduate of the class of 1965. Fritz Proctor, who is a graduate of the class of 2015. And Dr. Mustafa, 2002, from Memorial Hospital. We'll have, I think all 3 of those individuals will be in attendance to receive their recognition and their poster that will go in the schools to encourage other kids to be like them. And they will come to that board meeting, and we do it professionally with Dan Capolazzo, who is a longtime Gazette photographer. We want these to look very professional and top-notch. We are adding to the number of newsletters we're putting out. We're adding, we've had a basic bid, but now we're adding a couple of additional newsletters. So that number 6 is for layout. Lisa McNair, on April the 8th, our Dr. Martin Luther King celebration will be held at Bleneva Bond at 6 p.m. Dr. McNair is going to we're going to have her speak to our middle school kids this year. We've always had a speaker speak to our high school kids. So on the 7th, she'll speak to our middle school kids. On the 8th, she will speak to the community. Dr. McNair's sister was tragically assassinated in the Birmingham bombings at the beginning of the civil rights movement. So she's going to speak to our kids about that experience, and that's what that's for. Number 8 is Feelings Rock. It is for professional development for our music teachers at, looks like at Hyde Park School. That's a small short-term contract for some PD for our Hyde Park music students. Is that right, Mrs. Buckman? Those are our short-term contracts. We will not, unless there's an emergency, I won't add to any of them. Maria, did you want to go through the personnel reports?
Beginning with the certificated report, you could start on page 2. We have 1 voluntary transfer for you. That's from a teaching assistant from Hyde Park to Abbott. Then we begin our per diem schedule and schedules B, C, D, E, F, and G. And if you have any questions about those, please feel free to reach out. Again, we are kind of in a interesting pattern in the Human Resources Office right now. We expect that we will be beginning and ending our staffing process for next year in the months of April, May, and June.
So if I can punctuate and piggyback,
Please do.
SCEP is, that's the School Comprehensive Improvement Plan. Every school in the district writes a School Comprehensive Improvement Plan. We need to do that in some cases for the state. In some cases, in the other cases, we just do it so every school has a plan. All of the plans have teacher input in them, and that's why, that's done after the school day or on extra hours or a particular day, but that is a requirement. And of course, if you notice that, it's paid for by an F code. I like to just remind everybody that when you see F codes after anything, that's paid for by grants. So we do have money coming in from grants, and you'll see a number of the personnel actions paid for by an F code.
Thank you. Moving on to the classified report, we have the retirement of a nurse practitioner. We have the resignation of a physical education associate, a pre-K associate, two food service helpers. We have no terminations. We have a probationary appointment of a clinic associate at Niagara Falls High School, temporary appointments of assistant child care associates at Bleneva Bond, leave of absence, both personal and without pay, involuntary transfers of 2 assistant cooks who are just switching locations, and a voluntary transfer of 2 cleaners who are just switching locations, and then additional hours for translation. Mr. Laurie mentioned the SSEPs, and that's it for the classified report this evening. Yes, sir.
Number one,
Mr. Bass.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are those transfers just like a better fit thing?
Yes, it's for the good of the district,
Got it.
and one of them was involuntary, and one of them was voluntary.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Number one, is that on again, off again?
No, number one on the classified is going to retire on April 10th.
April 10th.
Yeah. And Mr. President, once you get this on the floor, I'd like to speak about the retirement of that individual with accommodation and regret that we're accepting this. During the meeting, yeah. I will. Yep, no, we'll talk about this more publicly on the 27th, but that person is leaving us with an outstanding career and was really a godsend, I'll say, during COVID. But you know, helped us get through COVID, which we couldn't have done without her. In addition to everything else, but you know, really key during that time. Right. So she is moving on.
Thank you.
We'll go through the resolutions, and I'm gonna again not go too fast. So the first resolution is we are fully expecting to get Head Start next year again. I know the Head Start people listen to this video and are watching closely. This is to accept $2.4 million to run Head Start. The second resolution is when we move money in the general fund, you get a budget transfer. You get a budget transfer. In the Head Start program, when we want to move one fund to another fund, we have to do it with an official board resolution. So in the case of 6.02, we're moving money in Head Start from salaries to benefits. And Head Start has a lot of rules, so we have to formally do. For the general fund, Becky puts on the board report budget transfers, you get a report. In Head Start, you have to do it by resolution. So all this resolution is doing is asking you to move money from salaries, where we have an excess, to benefits where we need the money. That's what number 2 is for Head Start. And again, the formality is required by the federal government. 6.03 is the nomination of a 2-year seat on the BOCES board. And it's my understanding that Mr. Consemi's name will continue to be added in there. So you would have to vote him in for another 2-year term on the BOCES board. That has to be, Judy has to submit that by the 24th. Without any objection, she'll do that, and you'll vote formally on the 27th.
Good with that?
Jude, would you mind taking 4, 5, 6, and 7?
Love to. Number 6.04 is your ordinary and regular appointment of election inspectors to serve at the various polling sites in May. And the next one, 605, is for the alternate inspectors, because there always are people who cannot, at the last minute, cannot fulfill their obligation due to illness or whatever reason may be. 6.06 is the approval of the appointment of our Niagara Falls High School students as election inspectors. As you know, this is the first time we're doing this. I'm very grateful for the cooperation of the Board of Elections Commissioners. They are going to come to Niagara Falls High School on March 28th. They're going to bring a voting machine. The students will have a 3-hour training with the Board of Elections, same as any other inspector. They will be paid for that time by the Board of Elections. And I did speak to a group of 17 students who are interested in participating, and Mrs. Rotella indicated there are a couple of more names, so we may be up to 19 students. Very excited about that. Now, 606, we thought it would be a good, 607, I wanted to appoint an individual who would serve as a liaison on that day specifically for the students. We have poll monitors and machine custodians that handle some of the other responsibilities at the different sites on that day. But because they are students, I wanted them to be comfortable and to have a dedicated individual who is familiar with our process and familiar with election law, who can guide them with any concerns that they may have.
So our goal, first of all, thank you, Judy, for moving this initiative forward. It's civics, it's a pathway, it's a source of money for our students. It's legal, it qualifies, it hopefully gets kids interested in government, and I think it supports, these students will then be able to work other elections, Jude?
They will, and here is a couple of interesting things I learned along the way. In order for them to be trained by the Board of Elections, they do have to be registered or pre-registered. You can pre-register as a 17-year-old, and that counts. So they have to pick a they have to pick a party. To work for me, they can pick any party they want. To work in a general election, they have to register in one of the 2 major parties. And if they do that, then they would be eligible to work the municipal, federal, state elections, any election in the city or the county.
And I know it's, in addition to the benefit it gives students and the learning it gives them, I think it helps the Board of Elections with work.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a godsend. These are people who were brought up with the technology we're using. God bless our inspectors. Some of them are far older than I. I was born with a black and white TV in my house. So I totally understand that, you know, the iPad can be intimidating to some older inspectors. So I think they're going to be a tremendous help in that regard, to us and to the county.
And again, it's our continuous look to get kids involved in pathways in government. So kudos. Okay, 608 and 609, I want to speak to you about. I'm recommending that we extend the current bus contracts an additional 5 years. It's no secret that transportation has been a difficult area over the last, well, since we returned from COVID, exactly 5 years ago today. Both of these companies have made some good improvements. The cadre of bus drivers has not risen to the level anywhere near what it was. I think we helped as a district. The unions helped when we staggered the timing of arrival between high school and elementary school, and got rid of Tuesday dismissal, et cetera, et cetera. If you only extend the bus contracts by state law regulations, Becky, you can roll them forward and only increase the cost by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. In this case, it's the Northeast Consumer Price Index in May. We anticipate it'll be 4.1%, it could be 3.5. If we were to put these contracts out to bid, as we did one time before with one of them, the first student contract, I'm fairly certain you'll receive very few responses, number one, because there aren't that many companies that want to take on more and more. Number two, and I only say this with, I commiserate with Buffalo. Buffalo just did this. They put it out to bid. The bid came back 50% higher, 50% higher. So in the case of one of our contracts, which is about $6.5 million, if it were to come back and it was 50% higher, your gap would go up would go up, so another $3 million. And then you do it to the other one, because that's a $3 million contract, it would go up 1.5 million. You are allowed, and Becky, you correct me if I'm wrong, you are allowed, as long as you never change the provisos of the contract when it was originally signed, to roll them forward using the CPI. If you make changes, then you have to put it out to bid. I'm recommending that we don't do that. I'm recommending that we continue with our companies. And my pledge is what we have started 2 years ago. We had been meeting with each company every month, once a month on a Wednesday, to hold them accountable, to work through problems, to assess challenges we had, and to brainstorm. We bring one of the high school principals with us. We bring the special education department. We bring our leaders there, and we go through the past month and what's coming up in the future, and we hold them accountable. I think while we've struggled in some areas of bus service, I acknowledge that. We've struggled in some areas of bus service. I think to put it out to bid and bring in the potential of a new company would certainly exacerbate your budget gap, and it would take quite a bit of transition time to get that company ready for what we do. So I am recommending as a strong economic decision and as a pledge to continue to monitor the service, that we extend both bus contracts for 5 years. We watch closely what the CPI is, and we not change the terms and conditions, but we hold them accountable for what we need to. I say that, and I also say that we have two very good in-house bus people. We've divided that job up, and we're all working together to improve service. It can be better. It could be. I am not going to tell you it's perfect. It could be better. I believe it's all predicated on a bus driver shortage, which is not getting better. It's not gotten worse, but it's not getting better. I don't think it's the time to be disruptive and move from the companies. So I'm recommending this. Both as a stable resolution and as an economic resolution, as well as a safe one that gets our kids to and from school.
Mark, when is the electrification of buses starting?
Right now, 2027, with the full implementation in 2035. I strongly believe that is not going to hold. Obviously, the federal money is dried up, and I don't see any more state money. And you can see, I'm looking for my budget notes, but you can see that that's a major topic in the discussion, is to adjust the timeline, which I think is far, far, far too aggressive. And I know some of you were at the breakfast, and we let our local officials know that it's not just the buses and all the issues that come with the electrification of buses. It's the charging stations and the infrastructure. And need I say again how much work it took us to get our two transformer poles in schools. Can you imagine electrifying even 50 buses and the work it's going to take? I think it's a far too aggressive timeline, and I plead with the governor, the assembly, the Senate to alter that schedule. It's not feasible, and it's going to add costs somewhere. It's going to add costs somewhere at a time when we are, we're in decent shape with the foundation aid. It's going to add costs and put an undue burden when these, and I love safe environment as much as the next person. It's just not the right time to follow that timeline. That's how I feel. I'm certainly open to other people's opinion, and again, I have no problem with the environment at all. I don't. It's just, let's have a sensible, practical timeline. That 2027 is not sensible and practical. That's next week. And it's just not practical. I'm fairly certain you'll see a change in that. But we talked to our companies about that. First Student does have some electric buses. Niagara Falls Coach Lines has the intention of purchasing some. They did get one grant to pick up, I can't remember, Becky, 6 or 9? 7. Yeah, if they choose to take the full grant, they can use a grant and get 7 of them. So I'm not against some incremental purchases, but not at the cost of, not at the cost of putting this out to bid, having the rate have to go up because they're following a timeline that's not going to hold. I just don't want to do that. And I don't envy Buffalo at all. You know what our bus costs are? Can you imagine what the bus costs are in Buffalo? 50%. That was a front page Buffalo news story. 50% increase. It happened, we did put it out to bid. I think, did it go up 22% the time we put it up?
When we bid this 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I think it was 2022. It did go up about between 16 and 20%.
Okay.
And then we negotiated a little.
Right. At a time when we're trying to put, we need people and programs for kids and safe buses, of course. It's not the time to do that. So I'm recommending that we extend them. That's something that we get done. 610 and 611 has been. These
Go back one
yeah,
second.
sure.
Just, Lori, have we ever thought about putting up some covering for our students? And I'm not saying every corner, I'm not saying that, but they're out there in that rain and that snow at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're soaking wet before they get on the bus. I mean,
No, I've not thought about it because we don't own that property or that land, but we have talked about at Niagara Falls High School, at dismissal, where the buses, the 30, some kind of covering, so when their kids are standing outside, they're not, and waiting for the buses, as they sometimes do, they're not getting soaked or snow on them. Actually, because that's our property, the city isn't our property, it would probably take years to get any movement on easements, right, Earl? But on our land, yes, we have, and we've thought about having the kids build it, a bus covering on our land, but not on land that we don't own. 610 and 611, we've had these resolutions for 11 years. Some of you who've been around on the board for a couple of years will remember we were trying to work a partnership with the county, the city, and the district for truancy and crime prevention by keeping kids engaged. The county kicked in $30,000. The school district kicked in $30,000. This is just to continue asking. We will receive $30,000 from the county, and we'll match that with $30,000 for kids who are on the verge of doing not good things in the community and keeping them safe and making sure that their lives are going in a productive way. The final group of resolutions there are no change orders again, which is really great. And the payment amounts on these are starting to dwindle down as we are now 80% of our capital projects done. We're paying Danforth $37,993 for one of our schools, another $53,900 at another school. Fry Electric, who's doing a lot of electrical work now. Remember, all of the doors are getting wired with nuisance alarms. We've added tons of cameras, so that's a $109,000 bill for Fry. Stark is $9,800, and MKS is $6,700. They're doing the plumbing work at the greenhouse, I believe. That the greenhouse hopefully will be ready with a certificate of occupancy on May 14th. That's our hope, May 14th for the greenhouse. They're getting close, aren't they, Earl? Just to reiterate for those that have been following this interesting saga, the LaSalle Prep transformer work by National Grid begins on April 5th. They have 8 weeks of work they claim to do. I think they'll be done before that. And then once the crew leaves LaSalle Prep, they'll go over to the Gaskill transformer. And again, they put out 8 weeks of work that will take us near the end of the school year to get and then we'll have the air conditioning in both schools. So our hope was to have it for this spring or this June. We're going to be pretty good shape at LaSalle and pretty close. I don't want to overpromise Gaskill, but we're going to be pretty close. Otherwise, we'll have it ready for the summer, which is not exactly on the timeline, but it's better than we were a couple of months ago when we had no movement. The rest of the infrastructure on the air conditioning is in good shape. Would you agree, Earl? I think it's moving along pretty well. We are contemplating one more owners. We do have some money left in the capital project. We're contemplating one owner-directed change order that we're still vetting for pricing. Earl has identified, we're doing work at Abbott, and Earl has identified a concern with the parking area, in the front parking of Abbott. Would you talk about? It's not on here, but I want to let you know what we're thinking about. We do have some money in this capital project, and we would like to shore something up in front of Abbott. So I just want to give you a little precursor of what might come.
So, as most of you may remember, most of Abbott's parking lots are relatively new. What is also relatively new is the pass-through that cuts through from 11th to Lockport Street there at the front of the building. Unfortunately, it gets a great deal of traffic. And in addition to that, you may remember there was a water main break on January 3rd, 2023 that lifted some of that pavement, especially at the eastmost end of that drive. So we're really looking to have that drive section repaved as part of the capital project.
Yeah, it's getting rough quick, the front of Abbott. It's getting rough quick. So we do have money left in our, not a lot, but we do have some money left in our reserve account from this capital project. We can do it with a change order that will be under $35,000. So we're now looking for the best pricing. That's the biggest one I see on the horizon. And while we have it, we want to get it taken care of as soon as possible, just to keep our lots and roads in really good shape. Those are the resolutions. Board members, I don't anticipate any adds to these. And I know Maria may have some changes to the personnel report. So I meant to say this. So here's the plan. We would like to finish the budget on April 10th. And once we finish the budget over Easter recess, I'd like to charge Maria with start rolling staffing forward for next year. We'll give her 1.5 hours off during Easter recess, and then she could come right back and start working on staffing so that in your May, we won't get them on your April report at all, but in your May and June report, you'll start seeing staffing movement. You know how thick those packets get. The goal is always to talk to our staff and fill as many positions as we can in early June. If not by the latest, I like to have 95% of the staffing done for your reorganization meeting. And then over the summer, it's invariably we have to do the last 5%. So it's get the budget done, then roll right into staffing. And of course, we have an administrative retirement that we'll need to fill. I pledged to the schools and the unions that we will have all the administrator moves, if any, and hires done by July 1st too, so that the person going into a new school will start the summers, their school improvement plan, everything they have to do July 1st. That's the pledge I made, and that's the timeline we're going to keep. So that's our agenda for the 27th. You see you have an April 3rd and an April 10th meeting. The April 10th meeting is it's pretty important. It's right before the break. That is when I'm going to ask you to hopefully support the budget that we put in front of you, that you'll put in front of the taxpayers on the 20th of May. Unless there's any questions, I have a few summary comments, and I'll take any questions. Congratulations to our robotics teams. We did it again. 8 students qualified for the World Championships in Dallas, Texas. We're sending 8 students and 4 coaches to Dallas, Texas to compete. These are middle school students that qualified. Niagara Falls High School kids gave it a really good run, but our middle school students are just, they're cooking real well with their robotics. I want to congratulate all 10 of our teams that qualified. As the competition in May gets closer, I'll read the names of the 8 young people that are representing our school district in Dallas going to the World Robotics Championships. Tomorrow, if you have a few moments, stop by Niagara Falls High School, the auxiliary gym, between 9 and, I'll say 1. I'm going to try to get there about 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's Pi Day. Pi Day. Tomorrow's date is 3/14. So we're celebrating for the first time Pi Day. Pi Day will be a STEM day, an activity of STEM. We'll have 100 students there from the elementary, middle, and high school, and they will be building in the auxiliary gym catapults. They'll have to build a catapult and design it and use it.
Hit by pies when you walk in.
No, I am. And then SUNY Niagara is cooking, the culinary is cooking and donating pies for the kids to eat. Then you can get a whipped cream one and toss it at me for help the district budget gap. We'll charge you $100 a pie, and but I'm real thankful. I'm very thankful to. I know I'm going to miss Ronnie McGrath, Kate Johnson, Madison Del Porto. Anyone else as a leader in that, Rick? And Dr. Bhavna Chowdhury. Those are the 4 people that said, let's have Pi Day. And it'll be fun and good for kids. That's tomorrow. The Niagara Central Rotary Club of Niagara Central, which I'm a member of, is donating dictionaries to all 3rd grade kids, personal dictionaries. They're giving them dictionaries. They're going to go into the classes next week and give them dictionaries. I spoke to you about April 8th. That is at Bond. That is our Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King ceremony with Lisa McNair speaking after she's spoken to our middle school kids. We will have award winners. There were 5 nominees for a student, and we still have, if you have a name for the adult categories of the Civil Rights Award, please give them to me. We're still going to sort through that. Our universal pre-K application is out, and Head Start applications are. So viewing public, if you know anyone who's 3 or 4, or 1 or 2 to get in that Head Start, get your applications in now. They're located in all of the schools. Fill them out now. Fill them out now. They're starting to trickle in. Fill out those applications. We will fill the classes up, and your choice of spots will start to get limited the closer you get to June. That, our great Board of Education, is all that I have for this evening. On the 27th, we will, the Head Start Policy Council would just like to come and say hello to you. We'll have a budget update for you. There'll be a need for an executive session on that evening with respect to one personnel matter that you've been talking about. Then we'll have our regular voting meeting at 7 o'clock. And that's our story. And I just I thank you for your attention, good presentations, and appreciate you for all that you're doing. Any other questions?
Any questions, anybody? Saying that, good night. See you next week.
Congratulations, Clara and Earl. We'll see you Saturday night.
Yes, congratulations.
Mr. Bass. No.
Well, good luck with that pup. How old's the pup?